Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Kelly, you're next.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Chris and Fred, for being here today. Both of you are constituents of mine and volunteers at the Dunrobin Fire Station, so I appreciate the time that you take to give back to your community, and I think that you both embody the true spirit of the rural firefighter. And I'm not sure if you did mention Mr. Burke in your statements, but he was a full-time firefighter with the City of Ottawa for many years, so brings I think a unique perspective to this conversation, having been a full-time firefighter and now a volunteer in the community. And I met you, Fred, for the first time flipping pancakes at a breakfast for the community. So the service that you guys do goes above and beyond just responding to fire calls. And it's my understanding that you don't receive compensation for those types of events. So thank you very much. Before we had this meeting, I reached out to a number of volunteer firefighters in Ward 5 to discuss this with them and see what their take was. And I've got a couple of quotes here from people who have responded to me, and I just wanted to say those and see what you have to say about that, and make sure that what we're doing here today will help fix these issues. So this is something that I've definitely support. It would certainly be help with retention and a small perk for us. This would likely also help for employment within the city for a seniority type of situation. For all the late nights, training, on calls in the cold, fully volunteering for pancake breakfasts and fundraisers, I think this will go a long way. Our current pay at $18 to $28 an hour barely covers the fuel and wear and tear on the vehicles, let alone our time. Doing all the, I'm not going to say that. Sucks having to do the night shift and then full-timers get cleared and we are left to clean up the hoses and then have to be at work for 6 or 7 a.m. and do a lower level of work at our main income jobs. Could get fired for low performance at our main job for being a volunteer hero all night. Do some of those statements resonate with what you've been hearing amongst the service, and do you think the changes that we're proposing here today will help alleviate some of those feelings?
Yeah, sure, I'll answer that. I mean, you got some candid responses there and sort of much appreciated sharing that with the group. I think I'll maybe just hone in on one, and I think the recognition as city employees is so important. I think I heard it about a few years ago when we started this process that a part-time lifeguard would have a higher standing with the City of Ottawa than a 20-year rural firefighter. So by those reasons alone, I think this is the right move. I won't get into the sort of political part about the urban-rural divide, not the forum for this right now, but it's certainly going in the right direction to recognize the job that people do, men and women, day in, day out for the rural parts of the city.
And Councillor, I'll just add that there is an expectation as the councillor for Ward 5 that you will be at Dunrobin Fire Hall to flip pancakes again this year. Thank you.
I will be, and I'm actually currently in discussions with the Integrity Commissioner to see if it's appropriate that I sign up to be a rural firefighter.
Thank you.
Wow. I will have more to say, but I'll do that later.
Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Kelly, and then Kavanagh.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Thank you to everyone who's been involved in moving this forward. I know this is a topic of discussion that's been going on for a while, and I think many rural firefighters appreciate that we're here today having this conversation and making the decision. And rural firefighters train to the same level as their full-time equivalents at the City of Ottawa, and while they do receive some compensation for what they do, they have a whole life outside of their jobs as rural firefighters. Aside from the time they spend training on Wednesday evenings and responding to calls when they're available, the vast majority of firefighters in my ward do hold down full-time jobs. They're out with their kids, they're out doing groceries, they're helping with homework, they're asleep, resting for the next day. When that call comes in, and I don't know if they still use pagers, but last time I checked they were, and when that pager goes off, they drop what they're doing and they come to the rescue of their fellow community members, and they don't just fight fires. I've had to call 911 a couple times in my life. Once was for a flu fire, but in June 2020, I got a call from my dad. My mother had a medical emergency. There were no ambulances available in the City of Ottawa, but within 8 minutes, there were volunteer firefighters from Constance Bay and from other stations in West Carleton, and that was a tough day for my family. My mom didn't make it through that, but when I got home, It was a volunteer firefighter, someone who used to live in the community I grew up in, who met me at the end of my driveway and told me that my mom had passed. And I can't imagine walking into that scene from his perspective. And, it just reminded me of the extremely important role that these folks play in our community. And, they're out at events, like we said, flipping pancakes, and I don't think there's any event that Sparky can't make better. At least that's my opinion. So with response times for ambulances in rural areas being really slow, they often show up to medical calls and have to deal with a whole slew of different things, which have already been mentioned today, so I won't ramble on. But simply put, Mr. Chair, these folks make life in rural wards possible, and we are very grateful for the work that they do. And I think these changes indicate, how much we care about them and the vital role that they play in the city of Ottawa and our rural community. So I hope that we can all support the recommendations today. And thank you very much for being here. And thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Kelly. Thank you very much. Councillor Kavanagh.
Thank you. Very hard to follow that.